Welcome everyone! This is Suffering Smallville. I am Peter, and happy to be here as always as Connor.
Yes, that's the word I'd use to describe my emotional state.
This is Season 2, Episode 18. It's called Visitor. And this is about another high school student who's just moved to Smallville, and he believes that he is an alien, and does some things to maybe convince Clark over the course of the episode that might be true, or he may just be a meteor freak, as we've had plenty of by this point in the show, which turns out to be the case. But look, there's things we're going to make fun of. There's definitely big critiques to swing at it, but this may be one of the best episodes that they've done so far.
It probably is, yeah.
There's like a couple of legitimately good little points or narrative beats related to Clark sort of realizing how he feels about being on Earth and how he feels about helping people that comes up naturally from this plot. So I can't fault it completely.
Yeah. Do you want to know something particularly frustrating? There was a key choice at the start of the episode that you point out as we were watching, that we, the audience, know the entire time he's not using heat vision from the way they frame the shot and show us his eyes, and we don't see the effect.
Yeah, but the point is that from Clark's perspective, he thinks that he maybe had heat vision.
Right. But I think if they just shot that from behind, as you know, show us it's not Clark, but show the back of the alien kid's head, and not show us his eyes as the heat vision is happening or not happening, and leave it as well, maybe he is an alien for the audience, I think the episode would probably be a lot better than it is if they didn't just make that choice right at the start.
Yeah, I think it's very clear the whole episode that he's not actually an alien, and he's certainly not Kryptonian like Clark sort of leaps to thinking he is. We just kind of assume, okay, eventually he does show a power that looks real, and was like, okay, well, he's probably a meteor-infected person then, and that's fair enough. But there's never a question. It's still interesting from the perspective of like how Clark's feeling about this and the way Clark gives him certain bits of advice, but there's never a question to the audience that he's actually what everyone's sort of speculating that he might be, and that does kind of rob it of some of the drama, I guess. You
reframe that one scene, you move the scene where they find out how he created the fire, you move that to later in the episode, and you can have the tension of, well, maybe he is actually a different survivor from Krypton for like a good 2/3 of the episode.
On that subject, what you just said, I would actually, well, it depends where you move everything else, but I would move finding out about the fire earlier, and the reason being, or more to the point, I would have it be before the horse scene, because the big thing here is that the proof that the fire was faked, and they did it with like some strips of magnesium, and he planned it, right? He planned a little pyrotechnic trick, right? We actually don't find out that until after we've already seen him use something else that is definitively a superpower. So for the audience, there's no doubt. Like, what this should do is put doubt in Clark's head and also our head. Oh, he's a fraud. It's not real. Stop believing it. But then he does the healing power thing, and you're like, oh wait, no, that can't be fake. That has to be real.
I think you can go both. I think you can go either direction. I think if you're wanting to convince the audience that, well, maybe he is from Krypton specifically, I think you just delay that information till later. But Clark does have an argument, with his parents at one point. Well, hey, maybe I'll develop those powers as well. I'm developing powers every year. Maybe he just gets them in a different order to me.
Yeah, so far around the same time every year as well. It's funny how that's working out.
Pretty convenient, yeah.
Like that debate actually made a lot of sense. It felt like, Jonathan brings up a good point. Why do you think he's Kryptonian? This power's completely different from anything you have. But then he's like, yeah, but like I've been getting new ones, so maybe I'll get that too. He does say, have you seen him use, super strength or super speed? And he's like, well, no, but it doesn't mean he doesn't have it just because he's not seen him use it. Like, he might be keeping it to himself. So, it's just not. Obviously, there's some on the nose referencing to things, and your usual thing. Connor had to drink a couple times for whatever. But the scene for me, because the whole plot, it plays out a lot like it's not an original story in the sense that I've definitely seen movies with this kind of plot where it's like someone who claims they're an alien and believes that they're going to go back to the alien planet. I think the big example in my head is K-Pax, but there's other examples of it where you've got someone who builds a device. In this case, this kid builds this big transmitter tower that he believes that he's gotten all the ideas from. He's like dreams that are telling him about his past, and he's got memories of the meteor shower. So that also convinces Clark that it's tied to the meteor shower. That's how I came down. So maybe there's connections there. And you do this sort of this bittersweet story where you sort of learn to like the character, and maybe you have it ambiguous at the end that they're really an alien or really a human that just thinks they're an alien, but it doesn't really matter if they were like doing a lot of good things for people, and it led to a lot of like you have that kind of and there's elements of that in here, not completely, but you can definitely tell the type of story it's taken.
It's a little bit more definitive at the end than those, but yeah, it's the same broad strokes. And
I think the scene for me is that about 2/3 into the episode, the alien kid, which is what we're calling him, even though he's definitively not an alien, but that's he is strapped to a hospital bed because his foster parents have decided that he's too much to handle. And this apparently, like the next time we see him, he's strapped to a bed as if he's like a complete nutcase.
A little bit reminiscent of what we already did in this show with Ryan.
The
kid with the telepathy.
A little bit of that, yeah. I didn't understand why. Okay, he has to go to like a foster home meant he was strapped to a bed. But whatever. There's a whole bit here where, by this point in the episode, he's seen Clark use heat vision, right? Clark used his heat vision to bail him out of a situation, and he's like smart enough to get, hey, I didn't do that. That must have been you. You must be an alien as well. So he's kind of like in on the whole thing. Clark's not told him everything else, of course, but he knows that at least. And Clark breaks him out of the bed, right, with a little bit of super strength, or maybe just regular strength. I can't remember how he did it, but regardless, he breaks him out of the bed, and he says, hey, Clark, look, you're much better than all these assholes on Earth. Why don't you come with me since you're an alien too? And this legitimately, the exchange that comes here, the response that Clark gives him might legitimately be the best moment of this show so far, where he just stops and thinks about it and says, no, my home's here, and everything I care about is on Earth. That is the most Superman he has sounded in this entire show so far.
By far.
Yeah. So, credit where credit is due. That actually sounded like Superman speaking. It felt like an important moment. It felt like an important moment for Clark to have that realization that, well, I might, think a lot about where it came from. I might think about being alone and all the alienation that comes from that, and so on and so on. Ultimately, this is my home. These are where the people I care about are. This is where I'm going to make a difference.
And I can't believe I'm going to give the episode even more credit here, but it's probably a smart choice that they use this episode to bring back his relationship with Lana in a meaningful sense. With spending more time around her, being like, oh, hey, those closer ties of her being around the farm more, using that to remind him as to things he cares about beyond just the Kents, beyond just his direct family. He everything he cares about is here, and that includes his relationships outside his immediate family. Yeah,
he's got scenes with her, with Chloe, with Pete, everyone in this episode. We'll talk more about them specifically, but yeah, it's so funny that this comes right after the episode that everyone loves because Christopher Reeve's in it. But we were quite critical of that and said, yeah, it's great that he's there, but it's all just kind of that and nothing. Like, the actual writing of the episode isn't very good. This is actually much better.
It's a far better episode in terms of what it actually is doing.
Yeah, and it actually feels like it has Clark make some definitive choices about who he is. And it's not without his cheesy moments because it's Smallville, and it's like Tom Welling's not the best actor. The moment where he uses heat vision, there's like a 30-second period where he tries to just gaslight the kid into believing that he didn't do it, and it's like the most extreme gaslighting he's done, and that's saying something on this show.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, it still has a lot of the Smallville stink, shall we say, but to give some credit,
there's less of it than usual.
There's less of it than usual, and it actually does some good things. So, I want to get the positive thing out of the way because it's a pretty big positive for this one.
That's probably the most positive we've been in a season and a half.
I think that's fair to say. I think it's absolutely fair to say. So, this was a good concept of an episode. They maybe didn't nail it 100%, but it still bore, some fruit came from it. So
it's the sort of episode where if this was like in the middle of season 1, you might be going, "Oh, is the show picking up? Is it finding its feet?" I mean, like that. It's that middle of a season of a network show, that first season, where you're like, oh, well, maybe this has real potential. It's like that sort of episode, but it's like too late to be getting really towards that.
I don't know if that's true. I think a lot of shows do actually really get good in the middle of season 2, so it's not unfeasible that this is maybe showing the true ceiling. The actual ceiling of the show is higher than maybe you thought it was, right? However, obviously we have hindsight. We know
we
a lot of what's to come, so...
Yeah.
But maybe this is a sign that here until about season 5 might be where it's at its best, and this might be kind of the quality that when there's a good episode, this is what a good episode looks like.
Yeah, I wonder, are we outliers on this? Do IMDb score, does that line up with us thinking this is probably the best episode of the show so far, let alone this season?
Well, I'll just check what last episode's was. Last episode... Well,
hang on, let's compare it to a different episode as well, because that's going to be high because of the Christopher Reeve stuff.
Yeah, the last one was a 9.1.
Yeah, no, it wasn't.
So this was definitely lower than that. Episode before that was an 8.0. That was Fever. That was the one where he was sick.
Right, okay.
This one's lower than that. This is a 7.6.
Oh, well, that's just insane.
I just think the people rating these episodes in IMDb are absolute idiots.
I understand in a vacuum as to why the last one was higher. They're wrong, but I get why they're just blinded by it.
Sure. Yeah, I get it. I get it. As Connor's fixing these headphones, having some...
No, I'm just plugging them in. They're dying. I haven't charged them.
I see. Yeah, I mean, if I'm just skimming the previous batch of episodes, this has got the same rating as the one with the other Luther son.
Oh, piss off.
Yeah, that's ludicrous. The Rush episode's higher rated. That's the one where it's the, pizza on red kryptonite.
At least that has like maybe a fun appeal to it.
Yeah,
I do not trust these people.
I feel like most people who are rating Smallville rated the episodes when they were of a certain age, right? So I don't want to talk down to anyone here. I think what's interesting about this is we're recognizing a superior thing in this episode that the people watching at the time, and they were all like between the ages of like 12 and 17, weren't appreciating as much. They were appreciating the flash and bang of some of the other stuff. But, so...
Yeah, but this is definitely the best episode of the show. It has to be. I can't think of anything that comes close.
Oh, for so far, absolutely.
Yeah, so far.
Yeah, not a question. Which is not to say that I don't have some stuff to make fun of, because I absolutely do.
I mean, it's an episode of Smallville. Yeah. Why would we be here otherwise?
Yeah. Also, this is like the third episode in a row with no Lionel.
Yeah, he was on a break. He's
been gone for a while. Just thought I'd point that out. So I want to talk about so some of the interactions that Clark has with others is worth mentioning. It is interesting that because there's a character who's saying he's an alien comes up, they get to openly talk about, hey, what if someone turned out to be an alien? And Clark gets to hear what people think of that, right? Which I actually didn't mind. I thought that actually felt like he's got an opportunity here to just flat out say, hey, how would you feel if someone you knew turned out to be an alien?
Yeah. It boils down to Lex being like, well, that's just preposterous. Chloe being like, yes, please, alien best friend. And Lana being like, oh no, sounds a bit sketchy.
Well, she's like, it might weird me out a little bit, which obviously dampens his mood a little at the end of the episode. Chloe's very enthusiastic. I think Pete's scene's interesting, just because it's a little hypocritical, because it's after the alien kid has figured out that Clark has a superpower and knows, or at least has guessed he's an alien. Pete is like grilling Clark, saying, how could you let him know? That's like, he could tell someone. Like, he's really like laying into him, like, you shouldn't have let him know. Your parents are going to freak out, and they are right to freak out. And all I could think was, Pete, when you found out at the start of this season, you were so livid with Clark that he did not tell you this. And now you're in the opposite camp where you're like, hey, how dare you tell someone?
I'm remembering a scene with Pete, and I don't know if I'm remembering it from where we're at already. Or if it's something just buried in the depths of my memory, where it might have been from the one where he was on Red K, though, potentially, where he was angry that he was told about it because of all the pressure that it left him under.
Yeah, I think that's come up.
I think
that's come up.
So I get in after having that conversation, maybe it's a little bit fairer for him to be like, well, mate, you're really going to tell this guy? Because I think Pete, while he had that initial reaction of, I can't believe you didn't tell me, has kind of mellowed on it since then.
Yeah, I suppose that's fair.
Well, maybe it's not for everyone.
I think just to make it funnier to me, because I was wanting to laugh, I was thinking that he was jealous that he's not special anymore because someone else knows.
Well, I mean, not to ruin too much, but he's definitely gone as soon as Chloe finds out. So
he's gone before Chloe finds out.
Is it before?
Yeah, he leaves at the end of season 3, and then Chloe finds out, like, I don't know, like 5 or 6 episodes into season 4, maybe something like that. Oh, maybe it's later.
Yeah,
maybe mid-season 4, maybe somewhere in there. It's somewhere in there. Yeah, so
that long with Chloe not knowing. Deal.
I know. She's gonna be like, and I'm supposed to be an investigative reporter, and I never figured it out.
Wait, are you sure it's season? Because season 4 is the witch season. Surely Chloe finds out in season 3.
No, it's definitely season 4.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Like, I mean, if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. But I would bet you money right now if we were betting.
I will tell you what. Like, I remember like a lot of moments and beats and episodes, but it all kind of jumbles together.
Yeah. To be fair, I think they do something slightly interesting with it, and I know I'm doing a lot of complimenting here with Smallville today, but they do a thing where she finds out, but Clark doesn't know she's found out, and they play it.
I remember her like taking the pictures. Yeah.
It's like a reverse secret for a little while, which is an interesting thing to do because it's much more interesting than what they did with Pete. So,
yeah, in my head, that's all season 3, but if it's 4, I'll take your word for it.
I don't think so. But anyway, yeah. So, yeah, they have the sweet scene with Lana at the end. The one thing with Lana that they really point out this episode is that Lana is out with Whitney's horse to give the horse some exercise, and it's not been taken out as much because, Whitney's...
It's an old man horse.
Yeah, Whitney's a bit dead as well, so,
Well, there is that, yeah.
So Clark graciously offers to store the horse at the farm because the aunt can't afford to stable the horse anymore. And she's like, oh, that's so nice. And Chloe pokes fun at him for saying, oh yeah, you let her store the horse here, meaning she'll have to come over here on a regular basis. Oh, that's convenient for you. But then Lex points out that he offered to do it for free at the mansion stable, because of course he has stables.
It is a mansion. Why wouldn't he?
But she turned him down as if she was hoping that Clark would offer. So it's nudging that relationship a little bit with that, Clark tries to keep his poker face, that he's not affected by it, but he's
terrible. He has no poker face at any point ever. I don't know if that's an intentional Clark Kent thing or if it's just Tom Welling can't do a poker face.
Yeah, the moment that got me is when he's talking to Chloe about, and she's like saying, no, it'd be great to have an alien around. Like, it wouldn't freak me out at all. It'd be way more exciting than all these normal people I talk to every day. And the relief on his face is like, if I was talking to him right there and I heard all this and looked at his face, I'd be like, okay, you know what? Despite the fact that there's no evidence on Earth of extraterrestrials walking among us, I'm pretty sure you're an alien based on that look.
Yeah, it was not subtle at all.
And this is a girl who's grown up in Smallville with all these meteor people running around doing shit, so it's even more believable to her.
Mm-hmm.
Anywho, so that was basically all the teen character stuff tied to Clark. I don't really have much more to say about any of those.
No, it was probably a lot of the worst stuff in the episode, because it was the typical stuff we expect from the show. But it was never any worse than it normally is.
I think it still served a purpose, at least in this one, because it did allow him to talk about this subject with people. Because normally he just avoids the subject of aliens like the plague, because...
Aliens? What are those? Never heard of them.
Bit close to home, But he got to talk about that subject, so it did at least open some interesting conversations and reactions, potentially.
Yeah, that's true.
I went on about Lex and his so-called relationship with... Dr.
Helen.
What was I calling
Bryce.
her? Yeah, but what was I calling him that last review? I kept calling her, like, I picked a name for some reason.
You did pick a name, and it was definitely not Helen.
And I can't remember what it is now. But, very good.
No, I have no idea.
So, yes. By the way, the alien kid, his name is Cyrus Nupp.
Krupp.
Krupp, sorry. Cyrus Krupp. I thought it was an N there, so I was silent. Yeah, Cyrus Krupp. That's a weird name.
It is a weird name, yeah. But, I mean, the weird kid. They probably didn't know that when they gave him the name, but he lived up to it.
What was it again? Oh, yeah. Lex and Bryce. Aye, her. I noticed something this episode, right? And why their relationship feels so fake. And I pointed this out when it occurred to me. But she talks to him repeatedly in this episode. We'll talk about what their plot is. But every time she comes to talk to him, she just walks into that main sort of lounge area where he's got his desk. It's not really an office. That's where he uses it. He uses it as an office, but it's not actually an office, right? But it's that same room that Lionel always bursts into, or anyone else who comes to see Lex bursts into to talk to Lex, and he's always sitting there kind of pensively.
His headquarters.
Yeah. And it occurred to me that she comes in and they're talking about why she's not moved in yet because he's proposed and all the rest of it. And all I could think was, we have never seen these two characters snuggling, kissing, being on a date together, just, being in a sort of romantic sense. Every time we see her talk to him, it's always in the same way that anyone else talks to him, which is across that table, or he's like trying to convince her of something, and it's got this sort of passive-aggressive kind of tone to it.
This is the proto-CW, and they are too old to be showing an affectionate relationship on that network.
I mean, maybe.
It's not sexy enough for the teens.
I've only ever seen them talk about having a relationship. I've never seen them actually have a relationship. I remember him going to the hospital to pester her over and over again about going on a date, and she eventually did. But then we never saw it actually happen. I've seen them talk about, oh, maybe this is getting tough now for X, Y, and Z reason, because I'm a professional, and maybe this conflicts with things. But we never actually see them. We see them discussing problems that the relationship seems to be causing, but we never actually see them have a relationship. And even how they interact now that they're technically living together by the end of this episode still feels so cold and distant. They're never holding hands. They're never even standing that close to each other. It's really weird.
It is. But you know what's weirder? You just said Z.
I did.
And I kind of hate you for this now.
I've been talking to too many Americans. I thoroughly apologize for such a thing.
No, that tiny shred of respect I had for you, it's gone now.
Do you know what it is? I will always say Z if I'm talking about the letter, but in an acronym, Z tends to flow better with almost every other combination of letters.
But XYZ isn't an acronym; it's the letters.
Yeah, but you're saying it sounds like an acronym when you say it.
No. It's the alphabet. It's not an acronym.
Yeah, well, until I was 14, I mispronounced the letter J, so, whatever.
Sorry, what? Hang on, rewind. How do you mispronounce the letter J?
Well, not so much when I was using it in a proper sense, but whenever I'd say the alphabet, for whatever reason, I had got into this habit as a kid where I'd say I and then say Jai. And then just keep going. For some reason, I just had
H-I-J-K.
Yeah, I just always had it rhyming with the I instead of the K. And I didn't take that from any other countries. That was just the thing I did.
The fact that you're willing to just offer that up as well. Yeah.
It has no power if I just embrace it. It's fine.
Oh, it has power.
It has no power.
Oh, you'll be surprised. You're going to regret that one day.
Anyway. So yeah, that was my overall observation of this quote-unquote relationship, is that we never actually see it be a relationship. We only see them debating things like every other character does in the show. But the plot of it anyway, though, in this episode is that she moves in, even though she's hesitant to. There's some
kind of forces her to. Like, I'm phoning you a mover. I'm paying your lease.
And then
get going.
But then he says, "Oh, but if you want to back out, I understand." Which you could argue is almost emotional blackmail. They're not quite, but it's.
No, but it's borderline. It's like, look, you're giving me all these excuses. Here's a solution. Are they really excuses, or are you just not wanting to move in?
Have you has she finally noticed that he's bald and that she's just not into that? Is that what's happened here?
Oh yeah, wow. If you're only just noticing that, then I think I have some questions as her observational skills as a doctor. Would not want her as mine.
It's not as good as the joke I actually cracked when we were watching the episode, which is she saw a photo of him as a kid and said, "Wait, you're ginger? Oh no, we're calling this off."
Yeah, no, that is a good reason.
There's phantom ginger hairs in that head. I can't be doing it.
There's literally no chance of them ever regrowing, but just the fact that they're there once.
The Phantom Ginger. That's my new nickname for Lex Luthor.
It's good.
Okay.
It's good. Yeah.
So she moves in, and she's there's like one scene of the episode which is basically doing Hitchcock's Rebecca, which is based in a book, so it's not Hitchcock's thing. I'm just, I know it from the movie. Where she's looking around and she's got a key that opens every door in the house but one. And a security guard even pops up behind her and says, "Oh, what are you looking for, Miss Bryce? I can take you anywhere." So she confronts Lex about it, and this is part of the clunky writing of Smallville, is that scene with her moving in, scene with her finding door, scene with her confronting Lex about door, next scene with them, Lex is giving in and is showing her what's inside the door. There's not very any story, it's just plot beat to plot beat to plot beat with no kind of building motivation as to why anything, it's just this shit, is what I'm saying. It's shit. But, what was behind the door?
Sketchy Clark Kent room.
Yeah, this is Clark Kent wank bank, basically.
There are literally just pictures of him on the walls.
And then also the key, the cave paintings, the crash car.
Simulation, yeah.
Yeah, he's literally got a CG simulation of what should have happened to whoever he hit.
We definitely saw that in season 1.
I think so.
That simulation, I remember that.
Yeah, they've got a gif of it they're still using to this day.
Oh yeah. Hey, they spent good money making that. They got to make them, make the most of it.
And of course, Bryce is noticing this, and you can see it in her head, the gears kind of, ticking away, and her being like, "Wait a minute, Clark Kent did have weird blood when I looked at his blood, so maybe I should mention that to Lex." She doesn't. She keeps it to herself.
Because probably importantly, she has a very key scene with Martha where she says she takes her, patient confidentiality very seriously. And
yeah, Martha does a sly little thing where she's like, "So you won't tell anyone anything, right? Including significant others?" And she's like, "You're worried I'll tell Lex?" "No, I'm worried you'll tell Jonathan because he doesn't know I'm here." I thought, that was very sly. That was a really sly way of saying that without specifically, Yeah,
they wanted to make it clear that at least right now, she believes that she has that moral line that she won't cross. Whether or not she will, because, well, hang on, this is bloody weird with this Clark kid now.
Clark Kent?
Whether or not Clark kid now.
Oh, okay.
It would be very weird, He this is sketchy. Maybe I should mention this to Lex, but I don't know. I can't actually remember if she crosses that line or not. But it's set up here that at least right now she's saying she won't. And she definitely doesn't immediately.
I clicked on the actress who plays Bryce because I'm like, I feel like I've seen her in something. She was in Saw 2. I must have seen her in Saw 2 as well. That makes sense. That makes sense. Apparently she was in an episode of Supergirl in its final season. So that they were still pulling from past actors somehow. Even in the final season.
God, did they think they made a reference to her character on Smallville? They definitely did.
Oh, I bet her character is someone who dated Lex. I bet that's what the character was.
Oh, it could be.
I could see it. It was 2021 though, so I'm assuming it was that last season and a half that I didn't see.
That we didn't see.
Yeah. But interesting. She's still working though. 2023. Good for her.
There's no reason why not.
A lot of TV work by the looks of it, but hey, take what you can get. Honestly, the only other thing to talk about really is to go back to the main plot and just talk about the actual things that happen with the alien. We talked about the conversations that were interesting. We should probably mention just how relentless these bullies are that don't like him, that Clark keeps having to sort of save him from.
Smallville has some shitty bullies, doesn't it? There's quite a lot of them.
It really does, and they're very relentless for really not much reason, to be honest. And they also pop out. Part of the episode is that Clark's helping Cyrus get his transmitter device back because the principal confiscated it. So they come out of the high school in the middle of the night, and out of nowhere, the 2 trucks with full of bullies show up, and I'm like, why do they
know they're here?
Yeah, this feels like a random like, okay, I'll buy that you're looking for him, but why would you look at the high school? Why would you think he'd be here? It doesn't make a whole lot of sense. But yeah, the big climax is that he's on his tower trying to beam himself back to his home planet, and the bullies show up in their truck and they chain it to the tower and they try and pull it down. Clark eventually shows up and sort of holds on to the back of it to pull it back straight. But the big, and this feeds into kind of the good part of the episode, which is Clark doing Superman-y things. Is one of the bullies breaks his neck, and Clark's like, hey, you can't go, you have to save him, you've got the powers to save him, do it. And he's like, but he's a shithead though, he's a bully, Clark, like, why would I do it? Because you're better than them. And I'm like, okay, that sounds a little bit like Superman, and I can't fault that. Of course, the big light that's shining down on them for like a minute turns out to just be a helicopter from the police, which eventually says, like, if any of you are in distress, stay where you are, help's on the way.
Take a while to make that announcement, don't they?
They took
conveniently right after the dude snaps.
They took a while to make that announcement, but they showed up here very quickly for, like, okay, I buy that maybe all the energy this thing's like, because there's literally a blue line of like light shooting into the sky from this tower, right? So, this kid's pulling some serious juice for this. But the helicopter shows up within like 60 seconds of that. So if this is why they're out here, then that's like a hell of a response time.
Yeah, my best guess is they were already out for something else, because it's a police helicopter, right? It could have gone for anything. And then they saw a big giant light in the sky, and they were like, well, we should probably go look at that. Yeah.
That's the only thing that really makes sense in all things.
And if it was anywhere in the Smallville area already looking for something else, then it wouldn't take it long, within a minute or two to get to anywhere else in Smallville by helicopter. Yeah, sure.
Yeah, of course, I do wonder how he was even able to build this thing. I guess the weird dreams he was having was like giving him some of the know-how.
They never really explained this, that the dreams seem to be somewhat real. Because, right, like, so, okay, they explain away, oh, well, he knew what the ship looked like because he actually saw it that day when he was a kid. But what about how he got the rough coordinates for Krypton? Like Chloe, hypothesized, well, maybe he's looked at some research, but the way Swan was talking about our last episode was like, hey, this is not public knowledge as to where this meteor shower came from.
Yeah, they don't really go into it. I think the implication I was getting, right, so we find out a meteor like hit his house and killed his parents, and that's why he's an orphan, right? And he thinks that he's an alien because he's grown up and he's having these flashbacks. My only way to explain this is that we know the ship like sends out like healing light and stuff like that. I have to imagine that the ship's maybe connected to how he got his powers, and it's actually just information from the ship that's sort of like in his head that's kind of showing up in his dreams,
as opposed to just pure meteor infection.
Yeah,
maybe
because the ship literally did heal like Martha.
It did, and they made a point of saying the ship landed near where he used to live.
Yeah, so I think maybe that's the for one, Smallville doesn't over-explain it, and there's actually kind of a link there that you can maybe see for yourself.
Yeah, I don't think I'm necessarily asking for an explanation, but more just they question certain things, like, well, how does he know the ship? Like, they actively bring that up and question it because they have an answer, but anything that they know they don't have an answer for straight away, they just ignore entirely. They don't even be like, how does he know that? And they're never like, yeah, how does he know that?
It almost reeks of like a big deleted scene with Chloe towards the end or something, or maybe not Chloe because she wouldn't know about the ship thing, but like maybe like the Kents like talk about it with them and they sort of come to this conclusion or something, and they just cut it out for time.
Maybe you have to do it with Pete because they already have the one with the Kents to do with the ship.
Yeah. Maybe Pete talks to them about it, and they just cut it because the pacing. We need to cut it for time, whatever. I don't know.
Could be, yeah.
It's not like hugely important, but I mean, we did kind of arrive to a plausible conclusion there, so it seems like there maybe was some thought behind it. Maybe it's a combination of like meteor rock plus like the shock wave from the ship or something's
Yeah, maybe.
done it to him. Unfortunately, though, once he heals the neck-broken Billy, he goes into a catatonic state. His mind has left his body. Went back to his home planet.
He wishes.
But he may never wake up, and I don't think he ever shows up again, so he probably never does.
Yeah, I don't remember him waking up, but which is almost surprising because it feels like there's a nice, easy episode towards the end of the show, right? With him waking up and being like, "Oh wow, look what you've become."
Yeah. Again, to be fair, I do think the concept of this character and what the story is does lend itself to just all these moments where Clark's either convinced him to do the right thing, making choices about how he feels about the world around him. And at the end, when the Kents come and talk to him, and he's looking all sad and looking at... It's not the last scene, because the last scene's with Lana, because of course it is. But he's like, oh, why, you know, he gave up. He thought that was his chance to leave, and he gave it up to save the Billy. And I'm like, well, Clark, you're the one who talked him into it, so you should probably have a good idea. But, you know, Jonathan's like, well, maybe he's more like you than we thought he was, sort of. Because, you know, the Kents were very skeptical every time this came up. They were like, oh, no, he's not like you, Clark. You're just wishful thinking. But this was like, you know what? Okay, he's not Kryptonian, but... Okay,
he
maybe...
was kind of a good guy.
Yeah, which, okay, that's kind of a nice sentiment. You know, I think as far as tapping into some of the ideas and things that make Superman, this is probably one of the better examples of it the show's had so far. So
yeah, definitely.
I think that's nice. Also, the word kryptonite is uttered for the first time. Obviously, we heard Krypton last episode, but Pete calls it meteor rock, and Clark's like, it's kryptonite. Yeah, it's all catty about it.
With a K, yeah.
With a K. He says it with a C or a K, and I'm like, that's his initials. Isn't that funny?
That was exactly my thought. Neither of us said it, but I think we both had the exact same thought there.
Yeah. You and Calvin Klein,
You've made that joke at least 3 times over the last 6 episodes.
I've not made the joke that much.
Oh, you have?
I don't think I have. I think that's...
No, you definitely have.
I think you're cooking the books there.
Just because it's not on record with all of them. Some of them you do while we're watching.
Well, there's no proof then, isn't there? There's no evidence.
Who needs evidence?
You should shave your head to look like Lex Luthor.
Yeah, give it a couple of years.
Why is it going? You seen a...
No, not really. It's not thinning or anything. It's obviously receding a little bit at the front, but...
That happens to everyone to some extent.
Yeah,
well, all men to some extent.
Let me put it this way. There are 17-year-olds at work with worse hairlines than me. And more than one of them. So, I don't feel that bad about my hair. It's fairly thin when I shave it right down, every 6 weeks or whatever. Yeah, sure, you can see my scalp then, but that's because it's really short. But it's to this, length. Nah, it's fine.
It just happens different decade. That doesn't happen to everyone, obviously, but for me it was my 20s. But some people don't it just happens suddenly when they hit their 50s or 40s. Just.
Oh yeah, no, it might happen at some point, but as of right now, no thinning, no bald spots.
I'm trying to will a phantom ginger into existence. Okay.
All I'm saying is I could rock the bald look.
I'm sure you could.
So yeah, it could happen.
However, if you do go bald before, or decide to make yourself bald before we finish Smallville, you have to wear purple lilac shirts from then on. You can't wear anything else you wear normally.
Deal.
Right? You have to
I will buy a purple lilac shirt just for these reviews.
Yes. You have to sit there in the purple lilac shirt, and maybe a suit jacket if you're feeling especially spicy some days. But that's all.
Depends on the weather. Yeah. Forget that in summer.
Oh yeah. That. Anywho, that is the show. That's Suffering Smallville, everyone. Not as much suffering this time. So
still made me drink like 3 times though, didn't it?
It did. There was a couple of puns about aliens, and actually I think the biggest one for me was when they were talking about Cyrus and Clark said, "Did you see him do anything super?" And that felt a bit on the nose, because I'm like, you could have said so many words to mean like a power or strange. But
and he chose that one just to make me suffer.
All right, that's us. Thank you for joining us. You can, of course, hit the like button to help if you enjoy the content. It'll help more people find us, and of course, you can support everything over at patreon.com/MailFuzzTV and get stuff a bunch early. These Smallvilles, right now, they're about 10 episodes ahead on Patreon. That keeps shrinking a little bit over time as we miss a week here or there, but they're up early. So if you want to go and check out,
Even when they do get caught up, they'll still be 1 week early.
they'll always be at least a week early, yeah. But for now, they're about 10 episodes ahead on Patreon. So thank you very much for joining us. We'll see you next time. Keep watching TV, and want somebody save me.